I have been a learning junkie from a very early age. Growing up as a kid in Northern Ireland, my favorite book was The Little Engine That Could by Watty Piper. I'm sure many of you here in this audience today are familiar with that story of hope and triumph and overcoming obstacles. There was a second book that had a profound impact on me as a child as well. The Little Match Girl. This is the story of a little girl who grew up in poverty and met an early and tragic end. And I've always been struck by, on the one hand, hope, possibility, and choice, and on the other hand, circumstance, demography, lack of opportunity. And I've always believed in my heart that our education system is the engine of hope, of opportunity, and of choice. And I've become very concerned about our education system and the way in which it is no longer serving our children. Much has been written in the 30 years since A Nation at Risk was published in 1983 about what needs to be fixed with our education system. Billions of dollars have been spent. Regardless, we have a dropout rate that is increasing. We have achievement gaps which are widening. And I think the underlying cause of why we're basically not getting anywhere is student engagement. Recent research from the Gallup organization shows that precipitous decline from elementary school through to high school. It's like the engagement for learning is being stripped out of our young people via the education system. And here's an example of what student disengagement looks like in action. Here's a student, Emmy Ryder, at a traditional high school. I never cared if I was going to use it in 10 years. I never cared if I solved a real-world problem. I never cared if I networked with real people and carried out my findings. I never cared, I never cared, I never cared. Contrast this with, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And it's this problem of student engagement that I think we need to address directly. And for the past 18 months, I've been researching the pockets of light that exist out there and really working on defining a model that will help to really synthesize the great findings that are out there regarding immersive, engaging student learning. Here's the model. This model is distilled from research-based practice from the High Tech Network, the New Tech Network, the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, and the Buck Institute in California. Let's start at the left-hand side here. The essential question, student choice and interests, and real-world application. Imagine if at school you were asked to think your own questions that applied to the real world. Our theme today is the hero's journey, and I believe these essential questions could be a call to adventure for every single one of our nation's students. And these essential questions are the gateway, the portal to interdisciplinary content. Learning math through technology, through language, for example. Essential questions such as, what if Rosa Parks had yielded her seat that day on that bus? What is the American dream? Who has it and why? Imagine how these questions would help you dive into content, would help you really engage in deep inquiry of your own choosing, making your own pathway. We also have meaningful assessment and public audience. I know during my education experience, I never really got out into the real world. The classroom doors remained shut for much of the day. Imagine getting out there into the community and the community coming into the school. And meaningful assessment. I could talk for a good 2 hours on standardized tests and the tyranny thereof. I won't. What I will say is students need to be able to reflect on their own learning. They need feedback that will be helpful. I was 33 before I got meaningful feedback in my academic pursuits. It was during my postgrad studies where I was in a class and we were given 5 opportunities to submit a paper over the course of the semester. Each time I submitted that paper, I got feedback. Here's what's working well. Here's what you might do differently next time. Here's some things to think about. What do you think? I got feedback from my professor. I got feedback from my peers in the classroom. Meaningful assessment. I went from not a great writer at the start of the semester to I think I can write. I think I can write. I think I can write. This model really came alive for me when I visited Columbus Signature Academy in Indiana. Prepare yourselves for a massive, essential question. Imagine that being how you're starting your school day. And here we have the students prototyping, solving real-world problems at the housing development, installing the wind turbine, which was benefiting the community. This essential question cut through the content areas of environmental studies, engineering, math, and service learning. Let's go now to California. At Chula Vista High-Tech Middle School. This school was going to build a playground. They asked their sixth graders to design it. Through this wonderful, essential question, they learned 3D modeling, statistical analysis, and budget planning. They learned how to speak publicly. They reflected on their work. They gave each other feedback. They distilled the 3 projects that they wanted to present to the architects. And they presented their options to the architects. The architects were bowled over by the caliber of these 6th graders' work. Let's go now to Denver, to the Denver Center for International Studies. Upperclassmen here work on a multi-year project, a project that is based on service learning and is global in its reach. Here are some examples of their work. Wow. This blows my mind. These are real-world problems. We are unleashing the creativity, we are unleashing the potential of our nation's children in this kind of work. This will have global impact. Cast your mind back to Emmy Ryder, our student who never cared, who never cared, who never cared. Emmy left that high school and she joined Kent Innovation High in Michigan. Here's Emmy now. This gets me every time. I want to change the world with my projects. Substantive projects. Work that has meaning. Work where every day I can bring my questions. I can bring my good thinking. I can do that in a global community. So I am standing here today. This little engine is leaving her full-time job next month. I'm starting a nonprofit. Our goal is to transform this factory model of education, to stop bashing teachers who are doing the very best they can against a system which is not supporting this kind of learning, and to support them in unleashing the potential inherent in every child. There's incredible work happening out there already, and we want to build on that. And you can be a hero in this work. I'm putting the proposal forth that every single one of our nation's 14 million students should spend at least 20% of their week on substantive, immersive, project-based learning. I can't do this alone. I need your help. So I'm asking you, at lunchtime, to send a tweet with the hashtag 20%, with your ideas, thoughts, suggestions on how we can make this movement a reality. If you don't have an idea or a suggestion, send a word of encouragement. There are 300 people here. There are 300 people here, and I believe today at TEDxRockCreekPark, we're going to start a movement. Will you help me? Will you help me help these 14 million heroes find their way? Thank you.